Hello and welcome everyone to today's radiology discussion session. Just give me one sec. Okay, yeah. Hello and welcome to another radiology discussion session by Radiogyan. Today's session is our fourth episode of our series, Radiology Conversations Beyond the Darkroom. In this series, we explore aspects of radiology outside the darkroom. Although a lot of us are not aware what exactly a darkroom is, but that does make for a catchy title. Our guest today is Dr. Aditya Daftary, a musculoskeletal radiologist practicing in Mumbai, India. He's also one of India's leading radiology entrepreneurs. The one thing that I like about Dr. Daftary is that the way he is always his unapologetic self and is never afraid to try anything different or hatke, as you would say. Without any further ado, I would request Dr. Daftary to start sharing his presentation.
Thanks very much for having me here. It's nice to be able to chat with everybody remotely, even though we can't see anybody, but this is normal for radiologists. We talk to people without seeing them all the time. So that's actually great. Is my screen projecting fine? And is my voice across okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So again, thank you very much for having me here. This is a fantastic, I think, great stuff that you guys are doing. You seem to have made fabulous inroads into the entire radiology community. And as I said, the moment I mentioned this, all my fellows were very much like, oh, of course, if you want to do anything, you should send it to Radiogyan and you get all over the place. So, great stuff. So my talk today is called Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. It's easy for me because I'm always hungry and I'm very foolish. So it's a standard thing that I do. So the premise of this talk really is, why am I giving this talk? And the reason I get to give talks like this is because somebody thinks I'm successful. And I'm gonna go through sort of questioning that a bit over here. So let's just for a moment look at what we call success. And if we think about success, we always say success is conventionally defined as the accumulation of financial and emotional currency, where emotional currency far exceeds financial currency, but is very dependent on financial currency. There are some set low-risk paths to success, which we call careers. And careers are built by achieving qualifications that are defined by others. In other words, there is some board of education that has decided that this is the test that you must pass in order to become qualified for X. Then this is the qualification for getting into Y. And this is the qualification for completing Y. So these are all careers that are built by achieving different qualifications, right? And the qualifications, most importantly, have been defined by somebody else. They're also standardized because they need everybody to be able to follow the path. They need to standardize them. So, these are the rules. This is the box. You have to color the box, and then you move on to the next thing. And so how do we become successful? We become successful because we achieve standardized qualifications. We set ourselves on course for a career. We continue to collect more and more qualifications. And that's what helps us to grow in our career. And then by growing in our career, we gain financial currency. And when others see our financial currency, to some extent, they admire us and give us emotional currency because we feel good that people appreciate us. And now that makes us officially successful. And what are we successful at? We're successful at making ourselves happy by making others happy with us. Kind of weird and complicated. But what if we don't achieve standard qualifications? What if we're unable to set our course for a career? What if we fail to collect more qualifications? What if we fail to grow our so-called career? What if we fail to gain financial currency? Others won't see it, they won't give us the emotional currency, and that makes us officially failures. And what do we fail at? We fail because we are deriving happiness by making others happy with us. And this is sort of, I think very important. If you think about it, our success depends on the way others perceive us. And this is considered to be normal. And in my mind, I consider this called normalitis. Normalitis is the process of incessantly acquiring standardized qualifications for the purposes of achieving success as defined as others. So I'm not successful by any stretch of imagination. My mom begged my school principal to take me in. I mean, literally, she said, this boy is my boy in kindergarten is leaving. Why don't you take my son? And she sat outside his office for a few hours till I got in. I consistently stood middle of the class. Every single report card I got said, can do better. And that was just sort of the half of the course. I made it to no inter-school team. I played every sport, but I didn't get anywhere in any of them. I got into college and medical college, like literally last name on the list. Just sort of snuck in. I got these scores. I think today they won't even let you enter the United States with these scores. And I took 4 years to get into a radiology residency in the US. I was just like sort of applying, rejected, applying, rejected, applying, rejected. So the question is sort of, now why have I been asked to give you this talk? It's because I'm a radiologist. I trained in the US. I moved back to India. I wanted to do multimodality musculoskeletal imaging. I didn't have any money for a scanner. And I said, I won't do kickbacks. So I had this great dream, stay hungry, stay foolish, which was quoted by Steve Jobs. And I discovered that instead of Steve Jobs, I was going to be more like no jobs. And so, I just didn't have anything. There was nothing in it. So this is a bit about my story. I'm not sure if there are any lessons that you can glean from it, but it's a story. And if not anything else, you hear it and have a good laugh. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the start, development, growth, and where we are now. So one of the things which happens, I struggled like hell to get into a residency and fellowship in the US. I finished it. I had job opportunities to stay on, but I just decided to move back to India because that's something I wanted to do. And here I got the standard questions. Why have you moved back? You didn't get your green card. Oh, your wife must be making you come back. That's why you're coming back. And the truth of the matter is none of those answers. I just wanted to come back. And I joined a great paying teleradiology practice. And I quit it in 2 years because I wanted to do musculoskeletal imaging. And I think one of the things that's important about all our journeys is that, we need to find ourselves. You need to do something and you need to be able to do it, realize what it is, realize whether it is you, it isn't you, how much of it is you. And I think this is sort of the biggest thing. If you're sitting at an office dressed like Spider-Man in a suit in front of a computer, then that's not your job. You're supposed to be swinging on buildings and you're supposed to be, saving the planet. And you shouldn't be just sitting in front of a computer doing crap like that. So I think these are just some things that in your head, you've got to find out what you really want to do. And so find yourself, spend that time. And if you don't like it, change it. I have heard so many fellows, residents just complain. This is not good. This is not there. This is not there. So don't tell me this is not there, this job. Tell me what you will do to make it better and focus on that. Don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. Or stop complaining and just suck it up. This is a very important thing. I think stupid lives matter. They're very important. Stupid people are extremely important because they do stupid things, and inherently, stupid things lead to great things eventually, except this one, which you can see on the screen. But let's not go there. So I decided to do musculoskeletal imaging. And when I moved back to India, most people I spoke to, including radiologists, said, "What's that? What's musculoskeletal radiology?" And many people told me, "Who cares? I mean, basically everybody does it. We all read knee MRI, we all read shoulder MRI, we all read brain MRI, we read everything. We don't need somebody to read just musculoskeletal radiology. And you're going to die hungry because you don't have money for a machine. You don't do kickbacks. That's it. That's the end of it to you." But I think the key thing over here is if you believe in something, do it. No matter how stupid it sounds, just do it. I think that's very important. Now, depends on your stupidity. I'm not going to get into that. But if you feel that it's truly an idea that makes sense, you are young, you have many years ahead of you, dive into something and see where it goes. A year or two of your life does not matter, trust me. So if you believe, do it, and you will get tomes of advice. I mean, just bucket loads of advice on what is rational, what is practical, what is appropriate, what is good. If you really want to do something, just stop listening to those people, because they are people who will just take you into that conventional world of conventional success, which you don't really want to be in. Now, another important thing is when I came back, there was a problem. Nobody knew what I did. So nobody knew what a musculoskeletal radiologist was. I didn't have any scanner access and I had no idea where I was going to get patients from. And I also knew that people didn't know what they needed. Like I would go back, I would look at musculoskeletal reports and say, this is not really musculoskeletal radiology. And I also realized that there was a huge problem in the space of how people got their reports. They were like, you get your scan, then you go the next day, collect your MRI films and report, and you take it back to the clinic. I said, this is just ridiculous. This is like an obscene waste of time for everybody. So we had to make things far more convenient. So I think one of the things to do is to understand your space. When you are starting out, what is it about you that people don't understand? And what is the gap that you are hoping to fill? So I think this is very important. So think of what's missing and how you're going to fill that void or change things over there. Now, oftentimes you think about all this and you really don't know where to begin. So I didn't, like all of you. So I had to find a friendly scanner, first of all. Where can I find a scanner which I'm not going to pay for? And I happened to just go and have a conversation with the guys at NM, and Rahul, who's their CEO, is a fabulous guy. And he said, we can make this happen. You want to read on our scanner? That's fine. You can put your patients on our scanner. We'll let you scan them and send you the images for reporting. It's great. And I said, where am I going to get patients from? So I went around, I talked to a whole bunch of orthopedic surgeons, and I said, listen, I do musculoskeletal radiology. I might have a scanner that I can work in. I don't do kickbacks. Are you interested? And be very honest and upfront at the outset. And I was very fortunate. I found some really good, well-recognized orthopedic surgeons who said, yeah, we'd love to work with somebody like that. And I realized also that, okay, we've got the scanner, we've got the people, we just have to make it very easy for people to use the system. So what we said is, go to any NM center, right? Get your scan done over there. There'll be no additional charges for this system. Centralized reporting, and then would send us all the images, and those we still use Dropbox or whatever else to send the images instead of crazy packs. Save all the images, store them, keep them with us. And we would tell the patients, go to the center, get your scan done. They will print the films, give you the CD in your hand. You go home, and you will get your report, and your doctor will get the email simultaneously with your report. So it made life very easy for patients and for doctors. Doctors could basically say, listen, there's plan A and there's plan B. You go get your MRI. If the MRI says X, then you come back here tomorrow for surgery. If it says Y, then here's the physio protocol, go home and follow it. So they just saw the report, they called the clinic, they said, this is the report. They said, yeah, you just go back or you come tomorrow for surgery. So it just basically made life easy for people. So think of solutions. And I tell this to people all the time. There are plenty of problems and people can whine, moan, and complain day in and day out, but you do have to think of solutions, not problems. So obviously make plans. Don't expect the plans to work, but that shouldn't stop you from planning. Now, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody will say that, oh, you have so many things. That's why you could do all of this. You have X or you have Y or you had money or you have whatever else and therefore you could do this. But the truth of the matter is if you want to do something, you have to plan for it a little bit. So I had saved up some money from my last job, enough to maybe last me a year or two of, just being able to survive, rent, food, all the rest of that. I did work multiple jobs at one point in time just to try and make things work. I just sorted out my time. I worked long hours. For a long time, and this is my friend Arjun Kalyanpur at Teleradiology Solutions always says, we have a vocation. Whatever vacation you had, you were working on it. You found time. I remember so many vacations where we would go out of town. At 5 o'clock in the morning, you'd wake up, finish your reporting. I remember we wouldn't go anywhere where you couldn't find internet. I've driven in Panchkini out of the house we were living in from a relative's house onto the main highway just to find internet, download cases, report them, and then come back to the house. So, we've done this for years and years and years, which now we don't necessarily have to do. Don't refuse help. You will get help from various quarters. Friends will say, let me give you something. Family will say, let me give you a place, we can give you a flat for rent. We won't, charge you rent or whatever, something or you'll get help from a lot of quarters. Don't be too proud to refuse help. Always pay it forward. You collect your help now, pay it forward to the next person who comes across in your life. But whenever you're taking favors and things and people's help, remember, weigh it against the cost of your soul. What are you giving up from your consciousness? Somebody gives you something, what may you have to give later back? So if you find that's not something that you can accept, then be careful of that. Like say, for example, for me, if somebody said, listen, I'll give you 100 cases to report today, but give me 30% kickback. To me, that was something that was not worth the weight of my soul. So I said, I'm not going to do that. I don't want your 100 cases. You can please send them anywhere else you want, but I don't want to do that. And in all of this, I think the key thing for you to remember is, when you're building something, when you're doing something new, how much do you need? What do you want? And what are you willing to give up to reach this dream of yours, or to pursue this dream of yours? So address the elephant in the room in different ways. And money matters. If you want to do the crime, you have to do the time. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work overtime. You're going to have to do all sorts of things in order to help yourself get that dream. So you will have to scrounge and scrape and do all those things. Now, this is literally how my practice started, right? I literally met the NM guys one evening. The next day, that same afternoon, I went in Anand Joshi. And the next morning at 7 o'clock, I get a phone call. It says, 3 patient aaye, Kute Patro. I have 3 patients. Where do I send them? And I struggled. And I called Rahil and I said, I've got to get this scan done. And he said, yeah, we'll do it. We sent those 3 patients across. And scans got done by my protocol. The images were sent across to me by whatever transfer mechanism was there. Downloaded them, reported them, sent these PDF documents to Anant. And, everything was done very quickly and efficiently. We got follow-up. He was very happy with the reports. The image quality was great. Everything was in place, right? So I think the key thing when you find that you're in situations is be there, be aware, and care. Because opportunity will knock. And you need to open the door when it comes. But also importantly is that opportunity will knock many times. Each one of those knocks will not turn into anything. But you still need to keep going, opening the door. Oh, it's the doodh wala again. Close it. Open the door. Oh, it's the doodh wala again. Close the door. Oh, it's the doodh wala again. Oh, wow, this is a hot chick who's coming. No, I'm just kidding. So this is sort of what you need to remember to do. Okay? Now, once you do all of this, I think the most important thing is to wait. You really do have to have a lot of patience. You start doing things, you're going to start picking away, and you shouldn't get impatient at any given point in time. I think this is important. So patience will bring patience. Now, one thing that I drive home to people that I work with oftentimes is everybody wins when you put patience first. There are a lot of mitigating circumstances that make you do things that you don't necessarily need to do. And one of the rules that, for example, we follow in our practice is the my mother rule. So when we're reading something, when you're doing something and you're thinking of taking a shortcut, you think for a second and you say, if it was my mother, would I do that? And invariably the answer will be no. And then you will just refocus your energies. So don't scan just because you can scan. Oh, you had a CT scan somewhere, but you haven't got it with you. Fine, we'll just repeat the CT scan. You don't need to do that. You can wait. It's not, unless it's a life-threatening emergency. We do interventions all the time. I can tell you that I spend a lot of my time when I'm doing injections just telling people, you don't need an injection. You need to do something else. You need to do physio. You need to do rehab. You don't need the injection. So don't poke just because you can poke. So in other words, just because you have a hammer, everything is not a nail. You've got to look at everything differently. Look for the old images. I think this is a very important thing that many of us don't do here. Think bang for buck. Like if somebody's come to you, how can you convert everything into an answer for them? So think sort of solutions. What is the answer that you would get with this, right? So give answers. Look at everything that's there. Look at the priors. Look at the current study. Look at everything. Give answers. Right? And I always have said in the beginning, billing has always been secondary. There are so many rewarding experiences in medicine where you don't need to bill for, and you will find that your practice will grow very quickly. And you see this with a lot of people with successful practices, even in the conventional sense. Just not looking at billing. Billing will come. Don't worry, people will come to you. People will see you. We are at that stage where today at my practice, people don't allow me to bill because I won't bill. So always put patients first, and that will make a big difference. So patience, bring patience. So, a previous point, which was that patience, that IENCE, bring patience. Here, it's just actually patience. The better you are with patience, the more patience you will get. Another thing that happens is shit happens. You've just got to roll with it. Things will happen. So we started an ultrasound service, which was at one side of Bombay. And one of the surgeons I worked with was on the other side of Bombay. And he would send patients to me, but only 50% of the patients ever showed up. So I decided to start spending a day in those days when we had portable ultrasound in his clinic, just sort of seeing patients as they came there. And we definitely had more patients show up because at the same time that they saw the doctor, they came and they had the scan with us. But it wasn't very, very busy. But at that same time, I learned a hell of a lot of orthopedics because I saw how every patient was examined. I understood what every patient what the plan for every patient was. So it made a massive difference to my total understanding of disease. And then that's how I went on to become a part of sports med. So I think things will happen. You have to consistently evolve. You have to change. You have to adjust. You have to adapt, and things will sort of work out slowly. When you feel you're wasting time, you're actually not wasting time. You're learning a lot of new things. So if you don't fail, you won't succeed. Every successful story, everything that you get to, every point of fulfillment that you reach, even, you will have many points of unfulfillment. And you've just got to learn to absorb them, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. Now, I like sports. So I watch sports, I play sports, I learn about the key people in sports, whether it be orthopedics, physiotherapists, players, and even supporters, people who support sport. I think it's very important. If you have a particular area that you're interested in, live it, learn it, understand every aspect of it. If you are a musculoskeletal radiologist and you don't you don't know the pain that an athlete goes through when they cannot play a game, when they cannot train for a week, when they cannot train for a month, when they cannot train for a year, then you are not providing perspective in your thought process of what's happening. So live what you love. If you're planning to do something, just live it in its entirety. So maintain perspective on what you're doing. Now, this is a part that's very important. It can be very difficult. Some people are very lucky. Some people are not. I am unbelievably fortunate. I think family support is extremely important. So when you're going out to do something different, realize that there are no set finite limits on how long you're going to be in this. I literally had a discussion with my wife saying, I'm going to leave this well-paying job for 1 year. And I mean, I'm going to leave it. I don't know when we'll find the next job, but I'm not happy. And this is not what I want to do. And I had 100% support. It was like, that's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll do something. Leave it if it's making you unhappy. So having family support is very, very important. Also having them to have the leeway. People tend to get very impatient. So say, oh, we told you can take 6 months off, that's fine. But after 6 months, if it's not working out, then set a timeline to come back. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way in entrepreneurship or when you're doing your own thing. It's your passion that drives you. It's your ability to say that, I don't mind if I'm making much less money, but I'm happy. I don't mind if I'm working longer hours, but I'm happy. And everyone else will say, but you're rotting, but you're not, because that's something you truly love and enjoy doing. So family support is exceedingly important. You've got to stay active. So I used to play squash. I tore my meniscus. I used to run. I got chondral wear. Then I was told to go cycling. So I started cycling. And today I love cycling. I have a great cycling crew, and it's fabulous. So keep active, keep doing things that are outside of medicine. That's very, very important. Find colleagues who are like-minded. So I'm very fortunate. We have a bike group which consists of doctors also and non-doctors. I have excellent colleagues at work. They all understand the insanity that we live with. Our workspace is always laughing and bubbling with joy. All our fellows come back and treat us like home. So obviously we can't pay you, but at least we can give you a good time. So that's, I think, a very important thing on that front. I have plenty of non-medical friends, and I think they bring the greatest perspective to everything I do. So if I'm thinking about something, there are so many parallels in various careers on how you can think, how you can change, how you can do things. And it's just fantastic to have those perspectives when you're doing that, to question you from a field of view that's not there. I mean, recently, for those of you who watched football, people talking about how the British football team recently trained the English football team. And part of it was that they got non-football coaches to help them with their thinking. Because if you put all the football experts to think, they're still thinking the same way, like football people. You need to have somebody from a completely different sport come in and bring a completely different perspective, something out of left field that will make things change. So don't forget life, because it provides many, many insights into a lot of other things. So keep it real. Don't just be completely focused on it. Most of you, or many of you, so far in your lives in medicine, oftentimes, from the time you start with your tuition to get into that NEET exam to finishing your residency, that's all you did. So make sure you have parallel lives and other things that you do. So today, where am I? I'm enjoying practice. I've got great colleagues. I've got super fantastic fellows. I meet great people at work every day. But I want to do stand-up comedy. And I think that's important, rinse and repeat. Now, it could be stand-up comedy. It could be sports medicine. It could be building software. It could be building teaching program. It could be anything else. Don't be afraid to take something that you're successful at, put it on the side and start something new. Because at the end of the day, start again from zero. It's not like you've never been there before. You know what it feels like to be at zero, and you can restart. So don't get very attached. Try not to get very attached to what you're doing, and just say, okay, fine, I can move on to something else. So my rules for staying hungry and foolish were, finding yourself. I think that's very important. Do something stupid. Believe in yourself. Just go out and do it. Understand your space. What are you trying to solve? How are you trying to solve it? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? Think of solutions. Don't get caught up in the problems. Problems are aplenty. And that's what you're there for. You're there to think solutions. When the opportunity comes, be there. But there will be many, many opportunities. Some may convert, some may not convert. But your job is to respond to them. Wait. You've got to be patient. You start doing something, you have to be patient to see whether it comes through. As far as medicine goes, I have to say patience first. There are innumerable opportunities in healthcare, innumerable investments in healthcare, which you see them. Somebody is marketing a device, somebody is marketing a particular MR sequence, somebody is marketing a particular kind of coil. You think about it, and oftentimes this is just a bloody marketing gimmick. And so remember, if it's not going to help your patients, it's probably not a good idea to do that. Roll with it. You'll have challenges. Keep sort of adapting and adjusting to get into those. Live what you love. You like something, just find out everything about it. Don't just focus on your particular area of it. Don't forget that there's life out there. What you do outside of medicine affects you in many ways of what you do in medicine. It allows you to think differently, do a lot of other things. And never be afraid to rinse and repeat. You have an idea, you did it, it worked, it didn't work. Don't feel afraid to say, fine, it didn't work. I'll just move on to something else. So, I'll put that on the back burner and work on something else. But I have to say the biggest thing in all of this is believe in yourselves. And I can tell you this, that all of you are incredibly intelligent people. And if there is anybody to be believed in, it's in all of you. So definitely just believe in yourself. So again, just going back, conventionally, success, as we have discussed. But what I'm going to propose is something very different, which is don't think of success anymore. Think of fulfillment. And if we think about fulfillment, it's defined as the accumulation of internal satisfaction. It does not involve anybody else. It's a wonderfully selfish thing to be involved with. Internal satisfaction will come from you following your passions. Following your passions means you're being different because, people don't necessarily follow their passion. They follow it as side things. When you bring it your primary job to follow your passions, you are going to be different. When you are different, people will ridicule you. People will look at you differently. People will not consider you successful in the convention sense. But if that's what it takes to be different, then learn to accept and embrace that. And finally, being different allows you to make a difference. And I think that's sort of the most important thing. When you're same, you're not changing anything that anybody else could do. But when you start to be different, you can make a really big difference. So how do we achieve fulfillment? For fulfillment, we allow ourselves to explore. We can take a year off. We can take time off. We can do the things that we really want to do. We can find perspective in ourselves. We find things that excite us. We don't do something just for the sake of doing it. We follow our passions. We feel free to change them. I'm passionate about this today. I've given it a good go. I'm not very passionate about it right now. I want to change something. Feel free to change that. Don't get caught up and sucked into that vortex. Keep changing until you find meaning and purpose. Once you find that, okay, I'm doing this gives me meaning and purpose. Redefine existing career paths. Excel at what you really enjoy. And then finally achieve fulfillment. And by making ourselves happy with ourselves, that's what we're really trying to do. And that is what we call evolution. So we have to evolve from success and trying to fit and check somebody else's checkboxes to something where we decide what the rules are, what we will work around, and how we will make a difference in this planet. So this is sort of a summary video that I hope you guys enjoy, but this is me. So, I'll end with this. I say no to normalitis. I'm fed up of somebody telling me what the rules are. I don't think I am Dr. Aditya Daftary. I am who I am, and I will be Popeye the Sailor Man. No, I am who I am, and you are who you are. And don't let somebody else define who you will be or where you will go. I'll end with that. And if anybody has any questions or thoughts, I'm happy to discuss them.
Thank you, Aditya. That was an eye-opening talk. So much to learn from it. I was trying to jot down a few questions, but as you were you covered all of them. I think you thought about of the talk even from a listener's perspective, because everything that I wanted to ask, you covered most of it. I think one highlight of your talk was perspective. That is something which is very difficult to teach, or how does one get that? When you were talking about these conventional paths that everybody takes, I have done that. I've been guilty of that. I'm still doing that. What needs to be done? How can we change that?
So I think the first thing is, I don't think you should be guilty of taking a conventional path. I think there is, nobody has, oftentimes you're not taught to explore, you are not given that liberty to explore, and you find yourself bound down by different things. So you don't have that liberty to do those things, or your mind has never been open to that. Now, that being said, I think the other important thing is that even in conventional jobs, you can make massive differences. So you can make massive differences by just looking at your workplace environment and saying, you just look at the way things don't work around you. And you have to start by making just small changes. You can't just wake up one day and say, all right, from tomorrow, we're going to be a fully automated, fantastic radiology department, going from, X-ray and having developers. You're going to say, okay, let's get X out, let's get Y out. You've got to start understanding what the problems are, and you've got to start thinking of what the smallest maximum impact change you can make. And in order for it to succeed, make it a change that is very convenient and easy for everybody else to absorb. So it's a lot there. It's find what is your biggest problem. Find what is the one change that will make a massive difference to that problem, but apply it in such a way that it becomes very easy for everybody to adjust, to change. So many small changes will lead to it. And as you keep doing that, also small successes will lead to other things. So I used to work with a radiologist who used to teach me at Yale, whose name was Eric Heisen. And Eric told me that he was in private practice. And one of the things he did was he would tell me that one of their former heads of their section, he would go to RSNA every year and he would find one thing that he would decide to just change in their practice for the year. And something that would change billing cycles, something that would change patient efficiency, that would change that. Another thing that I find is excellent is in academia, we had 2 days a week where we had 2 people who would come from private practice when I was in nuclear medicine. And they brought some phenomenal perspective to what we're doing. So just look at your regular workspace around you. You don't have to go out and leave everything and become something, try and just be the monk who sold his Ferrari or whatever else. But you can just make small changes in the place that you are that will make massive impact going forward.
Yeah, that's excellent advice for making the smallest possible but the most impactful change. The other
thing I find is we just accept certain things. For example, we accept that, patients have to wait for their report. Have you ever waited for your report? Do you know how horrible it is? It's just, and to stand in the line and to get and we just say that is acceptable. But if somebody actually thought about it and said, but that's horrific. I mean, that's almost, that's like we're treating people like animals. And if you think about it in that sense and you say that is not acceptable, then you will start thinking of ways to solve it. But so long as it doesn't strike you that is not acceptable, you will not think of a way to solve it. Sorry, you were saying something else.
No, yeah, it's that is so true. Like so many things you talked about, they seem so obvious, but I don't know what stops us, like everyone, from thinking about these things. And it's difficult to make those changes. But it's just so, like when you tell it, it's so obvious, but nobody thinks of it on their own. Like even your practice and how you built it, you worked on like common problems and came up with very simple solutions, like emailing the reports or directly to the directly to the physicians makes so much sense and saves everybody time. So I think that's difficult to develop that, but now that you've told us, we'll try to think on those lines.
One of the greatest experiences for every physician is to go and be a patient in a healthcare system you are not a part of. So you don't know anybody there, get into the hospital, go stand in the line, go through the OPD queue, have something happen, get the blood test, get everything else without knowing anybody. And you will immediately realize what a hellhole healthcare is and all the changes that you need to make in it.
I think we have a comment from Gayatri, who says that one should attach happiness to a certain achievement and should try to be happy every day and try to enjoy the journey rather than making it an achievement. So I don't know if it's a question, but I think she's asking how should we should we be happy every day, or should we be working towards achievement? I don't know if I got it right, but
so I think the point over there is, what do you define as achievement? Right? I mean, that's the key question. If you define achievement, I look at it as if I'm not thinking too much, it's that I wake up every morning and I actually want to go to work. Now, whether I want to go to work because of the quality of work, because it's the people at work, because it's the difference I can make, those are all the different levels of achievement, right? I mean, those are things that I have set myself as a benchmark. Now, if you set your achievement as saying, I want to diagnose Haju-Cheney syndrome today, then Haju-Cheney syndrome doesn't come every day. So I'm sorry, you can't have that as your achievement for the day, right? But so set what you want to do. What will make you feel that I have made a difference today? It may be that, okay, I want to turn the reports around faster. I want to make sure that we have a way that we get all the old studies back. But I want to do it without shouting at the mama. I want to do it by trying to convince the mama that this is something that we should do and that kind of stuff. So I think about, I would say, and set yourself a daily goal of, or a weekly or a monthly goal of, depending on the size of the goal of how am I going to make a difference in my workplace in the next 1 month. Do one project. It may be something as easy as, I want to get rid of typographical errors in reports. I want to get rid of short forms in reports. And just see how, it may be something as stupid as that. Whatever irks you, try and make it simpler.
That's a great suggestion, to work on one say idea or thing that you would like to change every month. Now that you're talking about it as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've had difficult times and you've had tough times with people. So when, I thought about this when you were saying, there are points where you want to say you don't agree with the person, or the work is not, that person is not doing its work. So for example, you mentioned the mama. So you've told him 10 times, he may be a colleague or subordinate, and things are not being done. So how do you manage that and keep it in a way, because you have to maintain your, relation. At the same time, your inner peace is also important. So how do you deal with that?
So I think there are people management skills that you need to explore. So I'll give you an example of people at work for me. I have 3 admins. They all have their individual strengths. And if I ask one to do something, one may not do it, the other will do it, and it depends on the type of job. So I think it's understanding that individual. And oftentimes there is an alternative individual. So you figure out who you're going to empower in which way to do what. And in general, my feeling is, in any organization, you must work towards a point where everyone is dispensable. So you should never have that crazy dependence. So if that mama is not doing his job, then it's very easy to convince somebody else to say, boss, you do this job and I will give you more credit for doing it. And credit is an interesting thing also. It is not all financial. Credit is also about motivating people to do it. And this is something that maybe slightly unrelated, but I remember Don Resnick telling me this when I ran into him once, and he says, we can't pay our fellows, but we do give them a good time. So, I think the important thing is what makes you feel appreciated and what makes the person in your organization feel appreciated for what they're doing and what you're doing towards enhancing their career, enhancing their self-confidence, self-esteem. I think these are all things that need to be put in, and it is definitely not all financial. We look at things where we just say, you know what, it's been a really hard week. It's Saturday. Let's just order pizza, and that's it. And we do it, and you just hand over the phone and you say, you give it to the fellows, just order whatever the hell you want. It doesn't matter. So I think you've got to remember those things. You've got to remember we had for many years we had things when we were pre-COVID. We just went out for dinner once a month with everybody, and we just said we're gonna try different food. Just different types of food. Nobody sees the menu. We just order a ton of stuff, and we just say, all right, let's see what's happening. So I think you've got to make it fun. You've got to make the workspace fun, make everyone appreciate it, and bring everyone together. I think even conversations with the mama, like the mama who doesn't agree with you, say, Mama, you've been doing this for so long. You've been seeing patients suffer for so long. Chal na, let's do something now. Let's make a difference. Let's make a change. There's some way to excite the guy. Chal na, vada pav khao nahi, then let's figure it out. So I think about how you can appeal to a better side of our standard way of doing this. Hey, ye karke do. Ye kyun nahi ho raha hai? Why are you not doing? There's better ways to get around it. So I think that's important.
This is golden advice, because I've been through that, and in an organization, I think for everyone in our medical profession, after a certain point, money doesn't matter. And these small things, like I was imagining you.
Tell me when you reach
these
that
with
point,
your
though. I'm
fellows.
interested in knowing.
Sorry?
I said, tell me when you reach that point where money doesn't matter, because then we'll have this conversation.
I have not reached that point yet, but I hope you get that point, that these things matter more than just the money part of it.
No, definitely.
You mentioned that family plays an important role, and everybody comes from a different space. And given our system, every family does their part, but not everybody is fortunate to have the kind of open-minded thinking, or say a broader perspective and teachings beyond like everything what you said. Most of our, like at least my family, they did their part, but they didn't have that kind of because they were busy with other things in life, and that's how it is. So as parents, I'm sure a few of our listeners will have are in that stage. How can we change that for our kids? Like, how do we build that approach of having a broader perspective, not like being open to all these ideas?
So this is I have a 15-year-old, and we are running through this all the time. I think some of the key things that you have to remember when you raise a child, for those of you who are parents, is that you raise them with your best intentions in mind. You put them in the best possible environment you could put them, and you've given them the best possible opportunities you could give them, and they've taken the best possible opportunities that they could deal with at that given point in time. At some point in time, you have to have faith that you've done all you've done, and they were making decisions thanks to what you've given them so far. So what happens is, typically, is you say, okay, I'm going to try this project, and then they tell you, okay, you can try this project, but you have 6 months or 1 year. After that, if it doesn't work, boss, shut it down and move on. Right? Then your parent is your mama. You just have to explain to your parent in a very congenial way that, no, this is going to take time. It's going to do this, that, and the other. And from a parental perspective, I think the hardest thing is you have to have faith. And an interesting concept I was talking to somebody recently was that as parents, as time progresses, and if you don't see success in a conventional sense, your sense of responsibility heightens. Because you feel like, oh my God, they've not achieved, and it's my fault that they haven't achieved. But as an individual, you are growing. The child grows as an individual, and they continue to become more and more independent. And in that process, the parent starts to lose more and more control. So now you have heightened responsibility, decreased control, and increasingly independent child. And the only thing that can save you there is faith. Faith that you have done whatever you could do, and this child will swim, and you are there for when that doesn't happen, but you've got to let them go. So if you're a parent out there, I would say have faith. You're smart kids. They've gone through probably the most gut-wrenching educational experience on the planet so far. They're smart, and they will do well, and they will always have conventional stupid careers to fall back on if the time comes to it. I hope they never have to do that. I hope if they have dreams, then they will do that. So I think as a parent, have faith, train yourself from the beginning, let go for little things. As somebody who has to deal with parents who are so-called difficult, your parent is your mama. Just figure out how you're going to be polite and how you're going to convince the parent in a better way than saying, screw you, I'm going to do whatever I want. You can't tell me, I am now more than 21 years old, I've left the house. It's just that doesn't work, it just creates angst. So yeah, figure out the way you want to play the game. It's a game, you have to play it, right? I mean, that's it basically.
That's so true. Just the last couple of questions. So regarding family and you're talking about your family supported you during when you're building this, and you didn't have you're still like in the building phase. After certain, you can't take your family for granted. You can't be say following everything you do, keeping your family behind. So how do you manage doing so many things and still giving your family equal time?
My wife is Mother Teresa. No, you're absolutely right. And there's a not to get very philosophical, but there's a great Khalil Gibran piece on marriage, on the many things or whatever. But one of them is interesting. It just says that you've got to grow with each other. So you've got to, there's give and take. You see who's where. It's always some sort of a compromise. You've got to be willing to give up certain things. Now, I'm not saying that I do. I'm a horrible individual at home, I'm sure. But everyone at home realizes that if I'm not doing that, I'm an even more horrible individual. So I think you do try to read as much as you can, everyone around you, and you try to adjust and accommodate and make things happen. How well you do it. And these things also end up being perceptional, right? I mean, it's not like I don't love my family. It's not like I'm doing other things. They know it, I know it. But at some point, people have expectations of you, and you have expectations of people. From my perspective, what I do, I just drop all expectations of anybody, because I can't expect anyone to expect anything from me. That's a lot of expectation in my expectant words. But what else can you expect? Expectedly. So I think, yeah, it is expectation management in a sense. With your family, it's expectation management. What do they expect of you? What do you expect of them? And being able to read that back and forth. So yeah, there are times you realize that you're saying, shit, I would like to go and do 14 other things, but I have been a kind of an ass and not been in the house for the last however long. So I'm just going to say, forget it. I mean, just stay home. And then if it's staying home and you're getting yelled at for that time, you just deal with it and say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to deal with it. This is my lot. I must live with it.
That's an answer I definitely didn't expect.
It's expectation and acceptance of expectation.
You've summed up family life in one sentence. We should frame this somewhere and put it up in our living room. Yeah. Dr. Daftary and his team at Innovation has come up with a teaching course for radiology residents. Dr. Aditya, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, so so one of the things that we strongly believe, one of the things that's difficult to find, especially in India and the developing world, is we don't have, you can read cases, you can see cases online, but you don't have great methods of validation. So what we've created is a course where you log into the course. We have courses they're basically on musculoskeletal radiology. Right now we've released courses on knee and shoulder MRI. And you log into the course. In fact, I could probably even show you the course just for the grins of it. If I get a second, let me just do this. Give me 1 second and I'll get you to the knee course. Sorry, there's a wedding outside here. And I'm trying my best to...
I don't think we can hear you much. I think that's you're fine.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I can hear it and it's sort of getting in my head. Let's do this. So we'll do this. Okay, so let me just share my screen.
While Dr. Daftary pulls that up to all our speakers,
yeah,
make sure that you hit the like button and so that YouTube sends this video to more people, and I'm sure that there's so much of learning from this video that they should reach a lot of young radiologists. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, Aditya.
No, thank you. Thanks. So, what we've done is we basically created things where you log into the course. It's a shoulder MI basic course. You log in. There are lectures that are about 20 minutes, which go through basic anatomy things. You've got quizzes at the end of each section that help you to consolidate the major concepts that are there. So they're not just questions for the sake of asking questions. They're questions that will actually make a difference to what you do. You can be in the course. We've got things where you can set up. You can launch the case. You can look at images. So it's proper live cases that you can launch. You can view them. You can review them. You can read them. And then what we've got after all the lectures, we've actually got sections where you can look at a case. So you can launch the case, look at it. We've got these fairly complicated but extensive structured radiology forms. So you fill out the forms on all the findings that you have. We even have a section at the bottom where you can not only do you write your own findings, your own impression, you also follow that up with sort of giving a sense of which category you'd put this case. Is this primarily a cuff case? Is it surgical? Is it non-surgical? So we give you options and trying to understand where that case stands in the actual clinical picture of the patient. You can we give you a post case. Did you find the case easy, difficult? What was the image quality? And then once you're done with all of that, you actually get a Google form that shows you what you filled in, what the experts filled in, compare the two reports. Were you on track? Were you off track? Then you can look at the report that we actually created for the same patient. And then there's about a 7 to 8 minute video usually that actually discusses the case itself. Says, this was the case, this is what we saw, this is how we read it, this is what we found. And you can go through the case for shoulder. We have 24 cases. For knee, we have 18 cases. You go through it, and at the end of it, you get a little certificate that says that you went through this course. But I truly believe this is a nice way to learn, because the lectures are not focused on trying to teach you everything. They're trying to focusing on concepts. The cases after that allow you to look at how you would approach a case, look at how the experts approach the case, and allow you to go back and reflect. So the whole course runs over 8 weeks. You can sign up and start any day you want, and you'll have access to the course for 8 weeks. You can go through the cases as many times as you like. And so I think it's an interesting way of looking at education. I think a lot of people who have taken it say they come out of the course feeling very, very confident, because now they've listened to things. They've actually reinforced their learning by looking at 18 or 20 cases that help them to sort of refine their thinking. So this is sort of what we have been working on lately. So if you want to go through this, then the website is learn.innovisionimaging.com, and you can go there and sign up for the course. There are a couple of previews. You can look at the previews and see what you like. And we're planning to come up with more and more courses soon. So right now there's knee and shoulder. We'll have hip, ankle, and foot, and then we'll have also the elbow, wrist courses as well.
That's excellent. Like, I like the way you've made it interactive, and it forces the learner to think, which is kind of missing from the current format of webinars and passive learning that's happening around. So I'm sure everybody who is interested in MSK imaging will find it useful.
And the most onerous thing for radiology, it forces you to commit, which is
exactly. So one last question before we close our session today. So if there was one thing, one life lesson or something that you knew before, earlier in life, what would that be?
I think the world around us is constantly in need of improvement, and don't ignore it. So there's constantly something you can make better than it is. And I think you shouldn't ignore that opportunity, because that opportunity is staring you in the face every day. I really feel we should do something about people who keep cutting lanes. I mean, those cars should be blown up. If there is an opportunity. I will invest in a company that decides to do
that. That's an excellent takeaway. Thank you, Aditya, for this wonderful talk. So and I'm sure this will motivate a lot of us to think different. and more than that, start thinking about things around us and how can we make small changes which will impact, say, our daily life rather than, say, talk about big things right away. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody who's joined us.
Way that somebody
Sorry?
put this.
No, go ahead.
There was a cool way that somebody. There was a cool way that somebody put this to me. Really, an entrepreneur, Rajesh Jain, he was telling me. So he says to me once. He says, Aditya, basically, I didn't want to wake up and have my kid ask me and say, Dad, you could have changed something in the world. Why didn't you? You know, and I think that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to leave this planet and this place a better place for the next round of people. So I think that's something we need to do. Anyways, thank you again.
I think your company for the people crossing lanes, I think that would definitely something that would change life for a lot of people. Okay, with that, we would like to close our session. Thank you, everybody who joined us live. And I will share the link for the MSK course. Some people are asking for that. I'll share the link in the description. And hopefully you learned something new today. If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button so that the video reaches more YouTube audiences, and even your YouTube feed will improve and get more relevant radiology content. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. So the next time we are live, you'll get a notification. Thank you, everybody. And we shall see you guys in our next video next Saturday. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.